Bronfenbrenner's bioecological theory explains the ways in which a child and his or her environment interact and influence the child's development. Beginning with the relationships closest to the child and moving further away, Bronfenbrenner describes the microsystem, exosystem, and macrosystem, as well as the chronosystem. The microsystem describes the influences that are closest to the child, including the child, his or herself, close family, peers, and school. Next, the ecosystem includes influences like mass media or community. And finally, the macrosystem includes culture at large. Bronfenbrenner uses the term mesosystem to describe the ways in which interactions between the child and other systems take place. The child also brings their personality and characteristics to the table, including demand, resource, and force characteristics. Demand characteristics are those that the environment reacts to, such as age or gender. Resource characteristics are the abilities or skills that the child uses to adapt to and thrive in their environment. Finally, force characteristics are things such as temperament that are outside of the control of the child. I will use Bronfenbrenner's systems to reflect on my development as a child as I interacted with the systems around me. Bronfenbrenner's inclusion of both biology and ecology is especially interesting to me as a twin. It is easy to see how, though my sister and I were raised in much the same environment and even shared similar peers, likes, and dislikes, we always have been and always will be completely different and unique. This is due to our temperaments, which we were born with. I will begin my discussion with a description of my force characteristics, those that differentiate me most from my sister. As a child, I was quiet, shy, and reserved. I was sensitive to the feelings of others around me and had a heightened awareness of emotion, even at a young age. I can see how this emotional awareness and sensitivity to others has grown and matured, as I have now chosen a profession that will allow me to make the most of my innate compassion: counseling. I think my parents' support and gentleness helped me not to be afraid to express my emotions openly. It is clear that the way the environment responds to force characteristics plays a crucial role in determining whether these characteristics will be viewed by the child as positive or negative. In a culture that largely fears emotion, it would have been easy for my parents to teach me to repress my feelings. I'm thankful, however, that they are always kind and supportive. In regards to behavior, I was mostly obedient and compliant to the instructions of my parents due to my sensitivity. I did not want to get in trouble and was easily more upset with myself when I did something wrong than my parents were. I was always a hard worker and desired to do my best, and in turn received praise for my efforts. This piece of my temperament has made school a satisfying and mostly enjoyable experience, and has also driven me to aim high as I pursue a master's degree and a therapist's license. I hope that this innate work ethic and desire to excel and receive recognition will continue to be an advantage as I enter the work field. Both of my parents were involved in my life throughout my childhood and adolescence. My mom was the stay-at-home mom throughout my childhood. I believe this environmental factor greatly influenced my development as a child. I received plenty of parental attention and guidance, especially at a young age. I felt secure and loved as my mom wanted to be part of my life. She volunteered in my classroom for holiday parties, came up with fun activities for my sister and I, and knew what was going on in my life. I was also fortunate to have a dad who was highly invested in me as a child. Though Dad worked a lot and would for periods of time have to travel, he was still actively involved in my life. My dad was my softball coach for about 5 years, so I enjoyed spending time with him at practice during the week and at games on the weekend. This was a great way to build a friendship with my dad and for him to spend time with me in a manner that we both enjoyed. Due to the close involvement of my parents in my life, family was a place of strong influence over my development. My twin sister naturally played a big role in my development as a friend and a sibling. Due to our personality differences, we grew up sharing responsibilities and roles. For example, Ashley was much more extroverted and outgoing than I, and thus made friends for both of us. Later on in life, making friends became more difficult for me as I had not fully learned this skill when I was younger. It was helpful, however, to have the comfort and security of a constant friend as a shy child. Being a twin has the potential to cause struggles in identity development. Luckily, my sister and I do not look like twins and were easily able at a very young age to form our own unique identities and to feel secure in our differences. Our parents allowed us to be ourselves after quite a few years of dressing us in matching clothing and to participate in activities we were interested in. My church community is another component of my microsystem that played a huge role in my development spiritually, socially, and emotionally. Church is where I had the majority of my friends from elementary school through high school. When I was younger, my parents were involved in a small group with our church, so I became friends with the children of my parents' friends. We could see each other at church twice a week, at small group, and then sometimes at play dates. These people were most involved in my life outside of the classroom environment. In high school, I was again very involved with the church and with my youth group. It was normal for me to spend 4 or 5 nights a week with my youth group friends, often engaged in activities. My youth group was tight-knit, and I was committed to the group as a leader. This meant I was close with my youth minister and his wife, as well as with other youth deacons who were parents of my friends. Due to my position as a leader, and as well as the dynamics of my youth group, I was able to learn how to interact with adults. Because of the interactions I had with these adults, I feel much more comfortable conversing with those who are older than me today. Spiritually, my youth group was formative and one of the most important influences in my life. I spent hours at youth events throughout the week, including Bible studies, youth hangouts, accountability small groups, and leadership meetings. Many of these times were focused on spiritual growth. Much of my knowledge of Scripture is due to the hours spent discussing difficult passages at Bible study. My gifts were encouraged and strengthened during leader meetings or at dinner with a youth minister or another mentor. My understanding of friendship and Christian community was fostered on retreats and sleepovers with the girls. In these various settings, I was taught to look for God's hand in the midst of busy and the secular world. Cognitive and social development took place for me largely at Redbug Elementary School in Florida. I loved learning as a child, one of my force characteristics, and therefore excelled at school. I was an avid reader, spending hours with books like Magic Tree House and Harry Potter. At the beginning of 3rd grade, I joined the Gifted program and spent one day each week in the Gifted classroom with others in my grade. This small classroom was fun and allowed for the Gifted teacher, Mr. Barnwell, allowed the class to have free time to socialize and pursue our interests, whether reading or math or logic puzzles. I think this environment fostered my work ethic and my appreciation of academics. Learning was fun and colorful in this place. Moving one ring outward, I will now speak about my exosystem. Media did play a significant role in my development as technology became more readily available throughout my childhood. I can remember playing educational computer games such as Reader Rabbit, Clue Finders, and more. These games again contributed to my love of learning. Television was another form of media that was present in my life. My parents monitored my television viewing and allowed me to watch shows on Disney Channel and Nickelodeon. However, certain shows depicting teenagers with poor attitudes or crass joking were off limits. I also include the states of Florida and Texas as a crucial part of my exosystem. I lived in both of these states during my childhood and found that they had very different cultures that impacted my development and lens of the world. Floridians are laid back and relaxed. They wear flip-flops constantly and aren't so consumed with sophistication and class. The culture of the suburbs around Dallas, where I have lived multiple times, is completely different from that of Florida. For this reason, I learned as a middle school student moving from laid-back Florida to fancy Dallas to adopt to and to adjust to the new culture around me. Finally, my macro system consists of the larger community that influenced my life on a national level. This includes the middle-class American culture that is characterized by materialism, individualism, and an emphasis on success and achievement and wealth. Though these elements of American culture can have negative implications, I also feel fortunate to have grown up in a country that encouraged me to be the best I can be. I was able to take that support and put my own twist on it by looking to my religion that encourages me to not be the best that I can be only for myself, but also for the good of others. Some of the more clear positive aspects of my nation that I benefited from as a child and continue to benefit from now include rights as a woman, freedom to express my opinions, and a right to education. These rights are the underlying influences that have given me the means to grow and learn throughout my childhood and are now allowing me to pursue my goals as a young woman.